We're back. We're back. Thank you for staying tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. And I want you to continue to stay tuned because I'm not too confident that this is going to be a juicy topic like I've had in the past few podcasts. But I think it's going to be good because because you know me. But just bear with me, though. Bear with me. Follow me on this journey through this topic. And let's see where it takes us. But I want to talk about leaving things behind. I made a quote that if you focus on what you left behind, that's all you'll ever have. Now, of course, I want to talk to Black people, but I just want to talk to human beings, really. We have a lot of coping mechanisms when it comes to trauma, and pushing people away is very easy. It's very easy for a lot of people. It's very easy to push people away. It's hard to bring people to pull people close to you. There's a lot of accountability when you keep people in your circle or when you keep people close to you. There's a lot of bonding, and that some of us may not necessarily be psychologically equipped for. And then there's a lot of times where it's hard for us to push people away too. This conversation is kind of like a two-sided coin, because I think there's a time and a place for everything. And so what I want to get at is our judgment on our life decisions making, as well as our social circle. Just our I just want to talk about our judgment on it. It's toxic when we push people away who tell us what we don't want to hear or are not ready to hear, but we need to hear. You know what I mean? You need people around you who are going to check you. You need people who are going to check you, who are going to put you in your place, or just not even that deep, but just, say, hey, I can't rock with you on that. That's a little, I don't know. You need people like that around you. And, our egos get the best of us. And if we've never been checked before or been raised to have our egos checked, it's very easy for us to be susceptible to avoiding accountability, to be that kind of childish nature of avoiding accountability. It's natural for us to want to run from toxic situations. I've spent a lot of time in my life running from toxic situations. However, have you been running from a challenge? Is it a toxic situation, or is it just a challenge? Or, and being able to decipher that, I think the best way to decipher that is, if it's a challenge, then how will it benefit you if you overcome it? You know what I'm saying? Like, will you be stronger and better, in a better position when it's all over? I've stayed in situations that I thought I could overcome, but wouldn't benefit me or put me in a better position. It would just wear me down, and it would wear me down or put me in a worse position, But because of my ego, I wanted to stick it through. That was very hard for me. The Black American culture gives a lot of focus and credence to how far we've come and how much we've been through. But the real question is, how much have we put ourselves through? I spent a long time making life decisions out of desperation or having my back against the wall. And almost each and every one of those decisions have never really panned out very beneficial. And many of those decisions I'm still recovering from this day, whether it be financially, psychologically, or spiritually. So I used to tell myself, okay, I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to get out of this. And I would find myself running from a bad thing and running into another bad thing, So I said, whew, I got away from that. And now I'm in this. Oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like when you so I was running looking back instead of running looking forward, and looking ahead provided me with that air of optimism. As opposed to running in fear, I was running in courage, running in bravery. I was no longer running from, but I was running to something. And I was less likely to repeat the decisions and the habits or the habits that got me into that bad predicament in the first place. When I began to look at where I was headed and focus on what it is that I wanted out of life and where I wanted to go and who I wanted to be, that was when I would run away from a bad situation and run into a good situation instead of running into another bad situation. Facing your destination shifts the paradigm of your decision making. So when I would get out of a bad situation and focus on what it was that I wanted out of life, I would make all my decision making was focused around what I wanted and where I wanted to be, as opposed to not going back. When you make decisions out of not going back, you're going to go back. It sounds real asinine, but it really makes sense when you think about it. Because now you're making decisions towards where you want to be instead of staying away from where you don't want to be. Yeah, I just said that. So in the same way, what you're looking at brings you closer to where you want to be. So in the same way, looking forward brings you closer to where you want to be. Looking back brings you closer to what you don't want, which is kind of a spin on what I just previously said. But it's a law of attraction that most of the time we don't even realize. I met up with a young lady, and she said something very profound. She was in a bad relationship, a bad romantic relationship. She was living with a guy who now I'm only when women tell me these stories, I always have to take it with a grain of salt and tell myself that this is their side of the story, because you never know. You don't know the cookie crumbs that led up to them being in that predicament in the first place. What they contributed to that to the story as well. You know what I'm saying? You only know the end result or the byproduct of the situation. So you always got to take it with a grain of salt. But she basically told me about how like this young man that she was with at the time that she was trying to construct a family with wasn't really up to par or holding up his end of the bargain or doing his manly duties around the house and things like that, and she would complain to her grandmother, you know what I'm saying? And her grandma and the OGs, it's always the OGs. She would complain. Her grandmother would told you, "Oh, you're not tired yet." And she was like, "What? Why would I be complaining to you if I'm not tired?" Like her grandmother said, "No, you'll know when you're tired. You'll know when you're tired because if you're angry, then you're not tired. But when you're tired, you don't get mad anymore. You just get the fuck up out." You know what I'm saying? Like you just, it's when you're tired of being angry, then that's when you actually make a move and you make a decision. And I thought that was just so profound. You'll know when you're tired, right? And that leads me to where I was getting at with all of this. Life can seem like a journey with no destination. you know. And that sounds almost like a Twilight Zone situation. Like you just going down an endless highway, right? But that when you really think about it, that's what life is. You know, you when women talk about, oh, you know, I'm trying to build with this man, I'm trying to go take the relationship to the next level. It's like, what level are you taking it to? Where are we going? Like, we just together. Like, what do you mean? Like, what are you talking about? Another young lady told me that growth. I mentioned this a few podcasts ago. Growth kills relationships. You know, so in the journey of life, your relationships, you know, they're born and then they live and then they die. They have like a ebb and a flow. You know, because you're constantly growing. You know, so that's why it's important to not expect your relationships to last forever. You know, and that's the pain. That's the growing pain of life. No pun intended. You know what I mean? Now, and with those growing pains, you know, you have to fit proper pieces into your puzzle, into the puzzle of your life, and in the same way, and people fit you into the puzzle of their life. You know. So that's another analogy. I just compared life to a journey. Now I'm comparing it to a puzzle, you know, so here we go. So there's a way to reject people without dogging them out or acting stuck up. And I think this is the kind of ninjutsu that a lot of people haven't mastered. Some people act stuck up, don't even realize it. They just feel like as though, you know, I'm just going to cut this person off and just be completely rude. And I don't care because that's just what I do. You know what I mean? Or they may not even realize that they're being rude. They're just avoiding accountability, as I mentioned earlier. Sometimes the cutting off is just an avoidance. Really, it's not necessarily, they're not man or woman enough to approach the person and say, hey, I feel the need to cut you off because of A, B, and C, you know. But let me touch on that. So a lot of people, they reject people and feel like they have to announce it. They have to announce the rejection. You know, they have to make it a declaration. You know, and in spite of, and if you have to announce it, then you're not really over the situation. You know, like you're not fooling anyone, you know, the only reason you're announcing it is just to feel better. Because one thing I always used to say, real killers move in silence, you know, and that's just a play on words, you know, just like people who are really convicted about their stance on life and on certain things are unwavering. You know, and they don't need that declaration and that announcement. You know, if you can dish it, you can take it. You know, like I said earlier, if you're trying to fit people into the puzzle of your life, the same way they're trying to fit you into the puzzle of their life. You know, so if you get blocked, don't be surprised. Yeah, I had to get used to it. Took me a while to get used to being blocked. For a long time, I used to feel like I needed people on social media. Like social media taught me so much about myself. I used to feel like I needed everyone. Every single friend on my friends list, I felt like I needed. I don't know why. I don't know what it was. I don't know what the psychology or the addiction was behind it. But I just felt like if my friends, like, you know, back in the MySpace days, like if my friend list went down, or if I went to somebody's page and it said they were no longer friends with me, I was like, oh my God. You know what I mean? It was like a train wreck just hit me. And yeah, so I had to learn that I don't need these people. And that learning came from being in a better place in life. Once I got to a better place and started making better decisions and was at more peace, and I was more at peace with myself and more content with my place in life and where I was headed. That's when I realized, like, yo, okay, I don't need you. And so it was easier for me to let go of people, but then it also became easier for me to cut people off as well. And now this is like, it's still new territory for me, because like I said, I used to feel like I needed everybody. And one thing about me, like, my consistency used to overwhelm people. I was too real for so many. Like, you start to realize how many fake people there are out there. And I realized I was being too real for them. And I was way too consistent. I was, whatever I did, I said I would do it. Whatever you say you did, I would hold you to it. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it did. It felt good. And I realized, like, dang, like, a lot of these people just ain't built like me. They're just not on my level, And that was another thing that made me realize I didn't need them, because I just realized that they weren't on my level. So it's like, what good would it do for me to hold on to them? They're going to flake off anyway. You know what I'm saying? So it became easier to block these people. And then, like, I became less and less tolerant to people with baggage. So like I became less and less tolerant to people with baggage. I had to realize that, like the first thing I had to realize was that I can't always be the Captain Save-A-Ho or the Captain Save 'Em. I'm no one's savior. I'm no one's savior. I'm no one's therapist. I'm no one's any of that. I had to realize that first. And whatever issue that they were dealing with long before they met me. And however long our relationship lasts is not going to cure that. You hear people talk about, like, those diamond in the rough relationships where, they were dealing with whatever issue, and then they met this man or this woman, and they kind of held them down and kept them on the right track and blah, 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 and kind of like saved them a little bit. That may be true, and it may just be a lot of hot air. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, yes, you should never, ever, ever. It's one thing to be emotionally dependent on another person, but to be psychologically dependent, that's just a recipe for disaster, because you can't make that person your God. You can't do that, because they're gonna disappoint you, as they're human. They're gonna disappoint you at some point. So it's like you're building a Tower of Babel for this person, who's only human, So yeah, like when I start to realize baggage, and I realize that this person is exhibiting some sort of residual effect of some sort of trauma, whether it be violent or sexual, it makes it that much. I've so much gotten to a point where I used to say, oh, I could put up with that. I just want to hit it. I'm not gonna, I used to tell myself, I'm not gonna let this woman, I'm not gonna invest so much of myself of this woman to where her baggage will actually hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Because I know better. I've been through enough storms in my life. I've made enough bad life decisions to know not to let this woman close enough to hurt me. But now I've gotten to such a level, whereas just the woman's baggage alone, just my consciousness of this woman's baggage already hurts me. So it's like I'm that much more quicker to just cut her off to begin with, I had to balance being critical and being self-preservant. The part of the human condition is self-preservation. And I had to ask myself, am I being critical? Am I being petty? Or am I really preserving myself? Am I avoiding accountability, or am I preserving myself? Am I, what is that balance of self-preservation and just being petty coming in? Where does that balance at? And I had to ask myself that. I didn't have to throw a tantrum or make a scene about it. just a few click. And that's the beauty of today, like some of the people who I've cut off, I have no problem seeing them in person. And I've been confronted about unfollowing people. I've been confronted about it in person. I believe that, we socially network. We socially network. So yeah. If I block you, if I don't fuck with you anymore, yeah, I'm gonna tell you, listen, I don't fuck with you because of A, B, and C. I've gotten to that point. And so and yeah, and I realized that that growth and maturity has to come naturally. It really has to come naturally. You could say you're grown, you could say you're tired of it, but like the young lady told me who quoted her grandmother, you'll know when you're tired. You know what I'm saying? You'll know it. It'll just one day it just won't have the same effect on you. It's just a spiritual growth. And the unbotheredness can only come from experience. Can only come from experience. Your spirit will tell you that when something is new, and when your spirit, you have to listen to your spirit. I'm not like, yeah. So yeah, the indifference can only come from experience. You have to go through these things in order to learn from them. Once you learn from them, you won't go through it anymore. So yeah, I won't deep dive any further. So that's my topic. Just a little life nugget, and take it how you want, and listen to it over again. It may help you. All right. That concludes our show. We would like to thank you for tuning into Prosperity U LLC, and remember to invest in the brand.